Okay. All right, so we're now recording, and then Zoe, are you ready for your first question and answer?
Yes.
All right, so we're going to use the raise your hand feature. So if there are any questions for Zoe, please raise your hand. And remember that you do have 20 seconds per question that you do ask. Yes, Alec, go ahead.
Can you talk a little bit about what the theater school looks like with COVID and with vaccinations and everything? How do you expect the theater school to look in the next year, and what can we expect the theater school to do now that hopefully COVID will not be as serious?
Yeah, for sure. This year has been really hard learning to act online, and I mean doing any kind of theater arts online. I've been taking online classes, learning how to act through Zoom in my house in Pittsburgh, and it's been really weird, but really amazing. And the faculty has done a great job. So next year, I think what people are really hoping for is that we will be back at live performances with less audience members, might have to do some masking, stuff like that. There hasn't been really any communication that has suggested anything too specific to us, but we know that we will be in person. We will be in person for classes. We're hoping that we won't have to socially distance and mask since everybody will be vaccinated. We're really, really hoping that, but there hasn't been anything that said specifically that that is something that's going to happen or something that isn't. So we'll have to see and get more details on that, but it's looking really good. It's looking like we're going to be able to really perform. We're already performing, doing some performances now. People are rehearsing live and stuff like that, and we're doing shows on Zoom. So hopefully it's going to start heating up again more next year.
Awesome. Any other questions for Zoe? Yeah, Kelsey, go ahead.
Okay, hi. I know that you also know I'm a TTS student, but I'm just wondering, in sort of your dream landscape of a more specific relationship between Greater DePaul and TTS, because I think they often feel so distant, what would that look like for you?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So that's been one of my big things this year, is that I haven't really felt super connected to DePaul as a whole. And I also, because of my TTS student status, I've been more connected to TTS than DePaul as a whole. And for me, what that would look like is encouraging TTS to get more involved in things that are more DePaul centered, right? So I think a lot of times, like, TTS students kind of don't get the memo on DePaul centered stuff. And they're like, oh, there's like a game. Oh, there's this happening. Oh, there's this happening. And they're so wrapped up in all the TTS stuff that it's really hard for them to get involved in all of like the DePaul centered stuff. So I think partly, really encouraging that, really marketing to TTS students and encouraging them to get involved in that stuff. Also encouraging them, to learn more about SGA. I think there's kind of a stigma around SGA within TTS. That it doesn't really represent them. And I think it does. And I think it can do more of that. And I also just think that DePaul as an institution could do a way better job of including TTS and marketing to TTS and talking to them and bringing them up and telling other students about TTS. I feel like it just kind of feels like its own little bubble. And I'd love to see DePaul, really encourage students to go see TTS shows, to watch TTS shows online, to check out the theater school, to any of those kinds of things, just connecting them and fusing them together.
Thank you, Zoe. Robbie, do you know how much time she has left?
16 seconds.
Anyone want to ask a quick question?
Sorry, I'm a huge talker. Runs in the drama school blood.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Zoe. Zoe's initiatives and a little bit about her are on our on the website that I sent to everyone this morning, and where you can learn a little bit about her initiatives and about her. So thanks, Zoe, so much for being here. We appreciate you and good luck.
Thank you guys so much. Wish I could stay longer. Mwah. Love you all. Bye.
Okay. So next we have a senator running for intercultural awareness. So Carl, you can go ahead and introduce yourself whenever you're ready.
First of all, can everybody hear me? I just want to make sure that y'all can hear me because I'm on my personal hotspot, so the connection is not the best.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out a little bit.
My name is Carolina. My pronouns are she.
You're cutting in and out a little bit. We can't hear you.
I am a third year student.
You were cutting in and out a little bit.
Do you by chance hear me now?
Oh, wait, yeah,
Am
we
I
hear
back
you
at
now.
all? I am so
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. Okay, we'll start your time over.
Okay, for sure. Okay, I'll just start all over so I can make sure y'all hear me okay. My name is Carolina. My pronouns are she, they. I am a third year student at DePaul, double majoring in political science and philosophy. I'm also the current senator for intercultural awareness. And so my goal in running for this position again is to just continue the initiatives that I've been able to start with the help of SGA friends and OMS folks as well, and just continue trying to achieve these goals. So for the next academic year, my main initiatives are to pressure DePaul into ending its contract with FOP. SGA has already made strong efforts in doing so, but we must also recognize that SGA is not alone in these efforts. BSU has also been making strong demands since last year, and I think it's important that we ally ourselves more and continue fighting this fight. I also think it's important that we pay attention to dining workers and making sure that they're given the proper protections and wages needed to survive this pandemic. As we open up campus, we need to recognize that a lot of the dining workers are not even being given a livable wage at this moment. When the pandemic first happened, the dining workers were the first people to be abandoned. And so as we open campus back up, I think it's important that we also ally ourselves with local Union 1, the union that's been representing the dining workers for many years now, and try and build connections between students and dining workers, who I believe are just as essential to our community as our faculty and staff. I also think it's important that we build coalitions with other student orgs. I think it's important that we recognize that as SGA, we aren't the only leaders on campus. We're only the very few out of many. And so I think it's important that we continue building these initiatives. With the help of Adora, who's here in this call, we were able to start like a town hall series a few months ago. And I'm hoping that in the next academic year, we could continue these town hall series to further engage the community in these conversations on how to organize and to redistribute the privileges that we as SGA members have and give it to all students across the board, because we're all student leaders in our own ways. I think it's also important that we continue making DePaul a sanctuary campus. I think it's important that we ally ourselves with DePaul Sanctuary, one of the few groups on campus fighting for this initiative, and also making sure that first generation students are given the resources needed to ensure that they get financial aid.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Are there any questions? Yeah, Hema?
Yeah, hi, Caro. So something I would really like SGA to work on in the next year is our marketing and comm initiatives, or like how we're approaching that. And I was just wondering, have any of us like been able to actually talk one-on-one with any of the dining workers, and would we be able to do interviews with them maybe sometime in the future?
Yeah, I think individual members of SGA have been in close communication. I had the privilege of working with other student leaders. March of last year, we were part of the DePaul Coalition for Accountability, and we were just student representatives working with local Union 1. But SGA as a whole, I don't believe has been able to do so far, but thankfully I've been in communication with Patrick, who's the outreach individual from local Union 1, and he has shown interest in working with us. And Wesley could also talk about this because Wesley's been working with the union for over almost a year now as well. And so we definitely have the connections, but I think there's still more to be done, especially as we open up campus.
Cool, thank you. Any other questions? Cool. All right. If not, Thank you so much for being here on your break. We appreciate you. All right, good luck. Okay, so those were the two people that had time constraints tonight. So from there, we're going to move on to our cabinet positions. We're going to start with president and vice presidential candidates. So I know that we have a couple people here. So whoever raises their hand first can go first if you would like to. So either presidential candidate, you all can raise your hand. President/vice president. Okay, Watfa raised hand. All right, Watfa. Where are you on my screen? I don't even see it. There you are. Hi. All right, whenever you're ready. And then, so you and Kevin can go, and then we'll do the other two.
Cool, thank you.
You're
Sorry,
welcome.
I'm right now. I'm Mosk, so if you hear screaming, it's because these girls don't know how to use indoor voices. But anyway, my name is Watfa. I use she, her pronouns, and I am currently the vice president of SGA. Little about me, I'm a neuroscience major and a community service scholar, and I'm also a Chicago Quarter mentor, college access peer guide, and then I am a mentor for high school girls on Friday nights, which is where I'm at right now. Mask off, I'm in like literally a closet, so no one's near me. Little bit about me and my involvement in SGA. I was senator for commuters my sophomore year and applied for that position again, ran for that position again for my junior year. But then when the vice president position fell vacant, I applied for that position and was voted in through internal elections. So I've been in that role this year. I'm running again to like serve the DePaul community as president next year because I think there's a lot more that needs to be done. I think right now, a lot of my, like the initiatives that Alyssa and I worked on are like, we're halfway there, and I want to be able to continue and see them through till the end. Especially with an in-person environment, there's a lot more that we can do, a lot more potential, and a lot more that students are going to need. And I believe that through my involvement this past year and what I have done, I just saw the 15 seconds and thought that was me. Okay, I'm so sorry. Through what I've been able to do with Alyssa and the connections that we've made around the university, I feel like I'm well set up to be able to continue in this role next year. And continue on some of the things I've worked on. A couple things. One, the MENA initiative. I don't know if anyone knows about that, but trying to get Middle Eastern, North African as a ethnicity category on applications. That's something that we're halfway there with the goal of right now. And another thing is also implementing hate speech policies at DePaul, which is something that affected me directly. So I wanted to be able to do as much as I can to advocate for that. So working with senators to get that done. I didn't mention any of the initiatives we have planned for next year. Kevin, I'm hoping you can touch on those because I only have 15 seconds left. But one of those is free mental health services next year, continuing after the pandemic, because right now they are free, but it's because we are online. So students have been fighting for that for a while now, and hopefully to continue fighting for that next year and actually see that happen. But I think I'm out of time, so I will stop talking. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks, Watfa. Kevin, are you ready? All right, you can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everybody. My name is Kevin Halechko. My pronouns are he, him, his. I am a sophomore here at DePaul studying secondary education with a minor in history. A little background about me, what I've done at my time here at DePaul. I've been a part of student government for the last 2 years now, where I have served in the role of Senator for the College of Education. I'm a part of DAB, and I am an orientation leader, and I am actually made an orientation leader again this year as well. So I'm very excited about continuing those roles. I'm a first generation college student, and that's a part, I think a big identity part of me is trying to, explore, and see the problems that students are facing. So what are the things that we are working on exactly? As Watfa already mentioned, we are going to be working on mental health services being free. Currently, they are free to students in the pandemic. However, we want to continue making sure that they remain free and available to all students. I apologize, my phone's like blowing up, it's being bad. Another one is that we want to defund the FOP tuition discount here at DePaul. In the last year, a lot of our students have called for this, and Watfa and I want to partner with organizations on campus so we can finally see this through and finally cut our ties with the FOP. We want to also create a scholarship for students that helps them with their costs of schooling. As we know, the cost of college is incredibly insane, and this scholarship we hope to pull directly from SGA's budget, which we won't be getting until at least the fall quarter. So we couldn't start much of the planning process until then, but we hope to work with students and our community members to create the scholarship. And then lastly is to increase that communication with administration. As we know, DePaul is literally the worst at communicating with us about what their intentions are, what their ideas are, and we want to hold space with students so that you can meet your administrators and directly ask them questions when we return to in-person learning in the fall.
Thank you, Kevin. Okay, so now we're going to open the floor for question and answer for Watfa and Kevin. So if you have any questions for Watfa and Kevin, go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, I saw David's hand first. So everyone gets 20 seconds to ask your question. So David, you can go ahead and go.
I was really frustrated when you dropped the Disabled Student Ad Hoc Committee over winter break because you had too much on your plate, and when you didn't do the typical CRB this quarter because you were too busy. Why should we be able to expect you to keep up with presidential commitments better than you have as vice president?
That's a good question, and it's a rightfully asked question. As I've mentioned before, the reasons why those things fell through weren't really because I got too busy. Oh my God, there's a lot. I'm usually good at balancing everything that I have going on. I'm thankfully really involved in everything that I do, but the reasons why, specifically the Disabled Student Ad Hoc Committee and then CRB this quarter, my community has been a target of hate crime all year. And right after I got elected as VP, that first month I noticed the SGA Instagram was getting a lot of like comments about me in particular. I am DePaul I was getting direct DMs from people saying like, you don't belong at DePaul because you're Muslim and because you're Palestinian. So that sucks to hear from someone that didn't like feel like it didn't matter what I was feeling at that time. And I kind of had to reevaluate what I wanted to do. And at that point I had to take more care of my mental health and also do more to defend my community who's literally being told you don't belong at DePaul. It sucked. And I've mentioned it at meetings before, and I feel like I'm hoping everyone in GB kind of understood where I was coming from. I still did try to be available to everyone. I hope I didn't fail any of you. I did try to fill the position for the chair of the ad hoc committee, but everyone else was also spread really thin, and I did try my absolute best that whole first month I got back. But through me like reanalyzing where I needed to like prioritize my safety and my community safety, I was able to get some more done as well. So that included the expanded ethnicity options and also hate speech policies. So yeah, I do apologize because that was something I really did want to work on. Obviously, I don't want to deal with people attacking me on social media, but unfortunately it is what I had to deal with. And this quarter in particular, like Alyssa and I both had to deal with that, with our communities being directly attacked. So I do apologize, but I also at the same time don't apologize for taking the time I needed to step back and take care of my community, because I do know they were really grateful for what I had done. So yeah.
Thank you, Watfa. Ryan, I see your hand is up.
Hi. My question is this. I'm a CDM student. Many CDM students, they feel neglected and sometimes just forgotten about by SGA. What specifically in your initiative plan will help CDM students?
That's a really good question. I know neither Kevin and myself are CQM students. Or not CQM, oh my gosh, I'm like reading everything and like mixing things up. CDM students. I know my brother is going to be a CDM student next year at DePaul. So that is something I do want to prioritize. I think this is something I said when I ran for VP. I can't really help communities that I don't know about. So I know me personally, and I know Kevin will be as well, open to having meetings to actually hear what we can do to support whatever college it is, whether it's CDM or theater school or music school or whatever it is. We can't really do anything without hearing from you guys about how we can best serve you guys. It wouldn't really be fair for us to make decisions without actually talking to you first. So we'd be more than willing to have communications about that. But I don't know, Kevin, you have anything to add?
It's a great question, Ryan, a very fair question as well. I think one of the initiatives that we're running on currently, that scholarship that we want to create with students, it's going to be available to all students, and CDM students are more than welcome to apply for that. And even if it's something that's small, it's still something that helps in a long way. And as we know, that cost of textbooks, they are extremely expensive. And this is just one of the ways that we hope to help you. But again, kind of like Watfa said, we'd be more than willing to sit down and work with your community and figure out what else do you need assistance with.
Okay.
That's all the time for questions.
Thank you so much. So in order for us to get through everyone tonight, we can't give anyone like a special advantage with time. So that's going to be the end of our time for Wafa and Kevin. I know that we could go forever doing follow-ups and second questions, and we would love to do that, but we do have quite a few candidates here tonight, and we want to do our best to get through this as quickly as possible and as efficient as possible as well. So we have more people here tonight who are running for president and vice president. So if there is anyone else that is running for president, vice president, you can raise your hand. All right, I see Wes's hand. Wes, you can go ahead and introduce yourself whenever you're ready.
Cool. Hello, everyone. My name is Wesley. Keith is obviously my running mate, and he cannot be here tonight. He's with his family. He's out of town right now, so it'll just be me. But if you want to know more about him, you can find on the SGA's kind of election website. All the information's up there. But yes, I am a junior at DePaul, third-year student. I study international studies and German. I am CQM at DePaul. I also work as a sustainability assistant. I've been in SGA for 2 years now. I served as policy advisor previously, and now I'm currently the executive vice president of operations. This year, I've been really focused on working on sustainability within SGA. It's actually, we've kind of seen some good success with it, and kind of a lot of our initiatives that Keith and I are going to be working on are centered around sustainability and building on a lot of the work that we have done this year. He served as EVP of Economic Affairs. So kind of the two of us working in our two respective fields, kind of coming together on a couple of different topics. Some of our main initiatives, obviously I already mentioned sustainability, working on that sustainability plan and trying to get that passed and trying to get DePaul to adopt that is a huge objective of ours. We are fairly close to doing so. We've seen a lot of movement. We have the Sustainability DePaul conference going on that I've been a part of. And we've gotten the university to kind of pay attention to what we're doing with sustainability. And I think we're pretty much on the cusp of actually having it get done in some regards. Other things we're working on, definitely working on budget accountability. The university uses a lot of their funds in ways that are kind of contrary to the mission. Not kind of, they are very much against the mission in a lot of ways. They don't release their investment portfolio. We would want to work to kind of get that revealed and get that out in the open to students so they can look at it. That's a huge thing for us. Another thing we'd love to do is implement a student committee that can advise the Board of Trustees on investment policy in terms of what are we making our investments in. You know, we already have things like FOP, which are kind of relationships that students definitely don't support. And I think our referendum will kind of see how many students exactly do not support this FOP thing. That is something we're also working on ending. A couple other initiatives I will mention, working to diversify faculty, a textbook exchange program, running out of time. So that's pretty much it for me. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Wes. Are there any questions for Wes running for president? Okay, I saw a lot of hands at once, but I saw Giselle's hand first.
Hi, Wesley. I just had a question. Having been in SGA with you before and just like been in spaces with you before, I've noticed that you take up quite a bit of space on like in SGA meetings and other meetings as well. How do you plan on acknowledging like your position as a white man who's running for the top position in student government? How do you plan on acknowledging the privilege that you hold in the space that you hold? Because I guess in my experience, I've seen you hold up a lot of space in these meetings that are predominantly held by it's predominantly like BIPOC students in these spaces, yet you seem to talk a lot. So how do you plan on acknowledging your privilege?
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of ways to do so. I definitely, as president, would take a backseat in terms of talking at meetings. A lot of the role of president is more so outside of meetings. Keith will obviously be chairing those meetings, kind of hosting our meetings and having those. That'll probably be the biggest way in terms of just stepping back. In a lot of ways, I think this year I've started to kind of step back, just more generally speaking, kind of pitching in when my opinion might be of value in terms of having expertise that other students might not know about the university. And those are kind of where I know I am needed in those ways. But in a lot of ways, I've been trying to take more steps back with what I do and where I contribute. When it comes to conversations, I'll pitch in when it's necessary. I think I've kind of tried to do that more, but that's kind of the main ways in terms of definitely as president. It's a different role than the ones I've had in the past. And I think I would definitely kind of adapt to a different role.
Thank you. And I did forget to mention this before, but I'm going to be prioritizing people who haven't asked questions first. So I saw Hannah's hand as well.
Hi, yes. So I just had a question. As Palestinian students on campus recently, we've been going through a lot between, especially in the past week, we have been going through a lot mentally, and we've been consistently attacked. This has been a regular occurrence on campus and both off campus. And we've been doxxed, we've been threatened. But my question is actually about specifically right now, in the past week, Palestine has been attacked by the IOF, and they have been burning down a city called Sheikh Jarrah, which is one of our cities, and murdering multiple Palestinians a day. And I just wanted to ask both, how will you protect how will you protect our identities on campus and protect Palestinian students from Zionists attacking us consistently, as well as have you been talking about and or posting about the city that has been burning down, and or will you continue to listen to Palestinian voices?
I will definitely continue to listen. I think that's the first thing is to do is definitely listen. And I think I've definitely been talking about it. I've been talking about it with my roommate, definitely been doing that. I mean, talking about it on social media. I've been looking at posts, reading through the posts, looking and kind of informing myself. It's not something that I have spent gobs and gobs of time. I am obviously also a student and doing those things, and it's not something that I've been following 100% with 100% of my attention. Obviously, I have other things going on in my life as well. It's no excuse to not look at things. I've been definitely reading and paying attention, and I think things I've done in the past, I served on the speaker review board in the past. If there were any Zionist speakers, I would absolutely try to make sure they are not coming to campus. That's something I would definitely continue to work on, and I'm sure Keith feels the same way.
Thank you. And then I also saw that Jaslyn has her hand up.
Yes. Hey, Wesley, I'm sorry. I know Keith isn't here, but I was just going to ask, how would you say that your leadership compares to like your opponents, and how would it differ in the upcoming year? How would your initiatives and I guess your ways of leadership benefit the students and constituents more, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think the biggest thing we need to do is definitely build coalitions within SGA, building with students that are at DePaul, as well as with staff and faculty. That's a huge thing I've been working on. Even this year, not even being in the president role, I've been working with faculty and staff all year, and those are key relationships. A lot of times we are completely outgunned and outnumbered on committees when it comes to university. We're one of 9 on track. We're one of like 10 on some of these committees. You need to build those relationships. And, I built key ones. My boss is the president of staff council. Like I already know her and have that relationship going in. And we need to bring a much more, I think, robust approach to our seats on those committees. Those are, we have very huge opportunities in SGA on those committees, and we need to use those spaces to be playing much more harder games in terms of like, how are we advocating for students? Are we going to let the university just run us around in circles like they have done for years and years with SGA? I don't think so. And I think we need to play much more of a hard game with them and be more serious with how we take these conversations and focus on building relationships that will actually get kind of results, as opposed to just, let's just advocate for students. I think that's the biggest difference in approach that I would take.
Thanks, Wes. And then, so I think Wes has like 15 seconds left. Is that right, Robbie?
He has like 10 seconds left, yeah.
Okay. Ryan, well, your hand was up next. If your question can be answered with like a short yes or no, just go ahead and ask your question, and then Wes can answer with the time he has.
Quick approach. Same question as before. CDM students, what do you think on your initiative list would directly prioritize CDM students?
Very simple. Textbook exchange. Different than scholarships. It would be a way for us to provide a lot more free books. Books can be expensive in CDM, as I know, it can be up to $1,000. Definitely, textbook exchange would provide more textbooks and kind of more services to students than something else.
Thank you so much. You can learn more about Wes on the website. I sound like I'm like an advertisement or something. So anyways, all right, so that's it for our president and vice presidential candidates. So we're going to be moving on to our executive vice president positions. So we're going to be starting, if we have anyone here that's running for the executive vice president of academic affairs, if you could raise your hand. Okay, Mason, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, hi everybody. I know most of you in here as I am a returner to SGA, hopefully. My name is Mason Decker. I am currently a sophomore in the College of Business at DePaul, serving as the senator for the Dry House College of Business in SGA. So some things about me is I am a real estate major in the Department of Finance. And over my past year in SGA, I've been very actively involved in the college's administration levels. So some things that I am currently doing right now is I am serving on the Dean's Personal Undergrad Advisory Board with about 4 other students from the Undergrad College of Business, which has allowed me to develop a really interpersonal relationship with the dean and other high-up students in the college, and also has allowed me to help influence him in ways that I believe will help him become more connected with our college. And then also looking more towards posterity, I am currently serving as the only student on a team of about 8 faculty members with a search firm to find our new dean for the College of Business starting in fall of 2022. So hopefully, as EVP of Academic Affairs, I can continue these works within the administration of the College of Business and help the new senators facilitate these same connections within their colleges. Thank you.
Thank you, Mason. So we're going to begin our question and answer session for Mason. So if you have any questions for Mason, you can go ahead and raise your hand. Yeah, Kelsey, you can go ahead.
Okay, my question is just based around the fact that EVPs have a lot of mentorship or leadership, I guess, that they bring to the role in helping senators for colleges. So I'm just wondering what you would be bringing to the role, like what leadership or mentorship experience or applicable skills that you have that you would be bringing?
Yeah, of course. So in regards specifically to mentorship, I'm currently an RA on campus. So I've had the pleasure of developing relationship with a lot of underclassmen in my dorm hall. I currently am serving in Belden Racine. So I think that has allowed me to sort of help steer academic and personal endeavors for a lot of my students. And so I think that has helped me with my leadership skills and developing them over the past year. And then also answering sort of the second prong of your question, I think that I am bringing to the table a very in-depth understanding of the inner workings of college administrations. And I really hope to pass that on to the next academic senators and work with them one-on-one to help them develop these same connections that I have developed with my dean, my associate dean, director of student affairs within my college. I think that these are so incredibly valuable. And I think that it is imperative that all of the senators have these same connections. And that is my main goal, is to bridge the divide between the senators and the college administrations, because I think that divide is much too wide right now.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions for Mason? Okay, cool. Oh yeah, David, you can go ahead.
Since we have a few more seconds, I was just curious how you might plan to help disabled students.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. Thank you for asking that, David. Part of my plan to help not only disabled students, but all students at DePaul is to give each individual student a voice in influencing the administration of their college. And I know that disabled students at DePaul, obviously, David, I'm sure you can speak to this, have been a historically overlooked group of people. And I think that is unfair. So I think that specifically within the College of Business, but then also other colleges, certain steps need to be taken in order to make classes and learning within the college a more accessible environment. So I hope to foster those conversations and take student critiques directly from you and from other students to those senators, who can then take it to the deans and administrators of their college to get your questions directly answered. I hope that answers your question.
Great, thank you. All right, if there are no other questions for Mason, then we can move on. Thank you, Mason, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, so we're gonna move on to the position for the Executive Vice President of Student Affairs. So if there's anyone running for that, you can go ahead and raise your hand. Hi, Cindy, whenever you're ready.
Hi, everyone. So my name's Cindy. I use she, her pronouns. I am a first-generation student, a second-year health science student with a minor in Spanish translation. Currently, I am serving as the Senator for Commuter Students. And my three main initiatives firstly involve holding like mental health events. Not everyone who suffers from mental health is mentally prepared to go to therapy right away. It's something that's very difficult for a lot of people. So one of the things I want to do is to host other ways to cope with things, such as reaching out to OMSS, reaching out to the rec center, things like that, other ways that you can help yourself, as well as trying to talk to University Counseling Services, because currently over 4 years, you can have 20 therapy sessions. And I don't think that's fair for students to only have 20 over 4 years, because we don't know what can happen in students' lives. We might need more than that. And I think it would be in students' best interest. I think also we need to prioritize safety and return to campus. Obviously, everyone wants to go back to the way things were. I also do. But we have to take into account that immunocompromised students still exist. So we need to take them into consideration. How does that play out with masking, with social distancing? Obviously, the university also talked about vaccination, which I fully support. So having those conversations to be able to be most accessible to all of our students, as well as events to inform students of their rights, such as if you feel you are being harassed, you are allowed to go to the dean, you are allowed to talk to these different people. Because especially being first gen, that was very difficult for me to understand. And I don't want other students to have lived what I have lived and had to do it on their own. And other things that I would like to do is just to mentor the new students, since I have been there, and I can help them foster those connections. So that is all. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. If there are any questions for Cindy, candidate for Student Affairs, you can go ahead and raise your hand. Okay, Robbie, you can go ahead.
Hi, Cindy. Thank you so much for being here with us. This may seem like a silly question, but I was just curious about why you voted present on the FOP referendum yesterday.
That's a very fair question, and I really struggled with it because I do fully support getting rid of that tuition discount. I just feel like if we had discussed it a little further, which we all were a little tired, I think we could have created better wording for it, which would maximize, the results of it, especially having worked with data and having to do qualitative interviews. I feel like if we had just gone a little bit longer, we could have had a little more developed language. So that's more why I voted present, but I still fully agree with the initiative itself, if that makes sense.
Sure, thank you, Cindy. Jaslyn, you go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know, well, for those of you who have been present in our SGA GB meetings, know that Cindy has an amazing personality. She's like always leaving us like great messages. And I was just going to ask, how do you plan to like bring your personality and that energy to the yes, Wafa, Cindy boosts our ego all the time. But how do you plan on bringing like that energy and your personality to your position again this year? Are there any ways you plan to like engage students more and kind of maximize I guess, those initiatives and priorities you mentioned previously?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, being an EVP also comes with the responsibility of obviously mentoring the senators. And I think one of the ways that I can help in that regard is it's very intimidating at first, especially if you don't know anyone. So just to be kind of easygoing and seeing like, hey, we're still all people. We can still get everything done. When it comes to my personal initiatives, I think that because I'm very I'm smiley, I'm really giggly, it's just kind of who I am. I think it might make it a little easier to connect with certain students, and also having my own personal background of, at one point I was disabled and first gen. I have many different identities that go into one. And I think that allows me to connect with different communities. Obviously, I don't have every identity, and that will allow me to listen and communicate to different communities that I personally just don't have the experience of living. And I think that these different aspects will help me further understand certain communities, as well as put more, I guess, passion behind certain things that I have going, like my mental health initiatives. Did that answer your question? Or
Yes, definitely. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Robbie, can I ask how much time there is left, if you know?
1 minute.
Okay, great. All right, Kevin, you can go ahead and ask a question.
Yeah, Cindy. So we were in the same first gen cohort together, and since this meeting is being recorded, I figured this would be a great opportunity to just tell the university what has been some of the takeaways from being part of that cohort. What do you if there's something that you could tell the students about being a first gen student, what would it be? What are some of those struggles?
I think that's a fantastic question. I remember when I started, a lot of first gen students in general have this added pressure of you are the first in your family, you have to do everything right. And there's this mentality that you feel like you can't mess up. And what I would tell you is that it's okay to mess up, because no one who's going into college is going to have the same experience. Some people will like to be more outgoing. Some people will like to be more introverted. You're not going to do anything wrong just by being true to yourself. And it's not a bad idea to ask for help when you feel like you don't know what you're doing, because that's normal. Nobody really knows what they're doing. And that's part of being college. That's part of growing up. So don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. And you are not alone in this. Even first gen or not, everyone is going through some form of struggle, and you are not alone. So that's what I would say.
Thank you so much, Cindy. We appreciate you. I believe that that's the time that you have. It doesn't look like there are any other questions. So thank you, Cindy, and good luck. We're going to move on to our last cabinet position, which is our Executive Vice President for Diversity and Equity. I know that we have 2 candidates running for this position. So if those of you who would like to speak can raise your hand. Okay, I saw Magoli's hand. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yes, it's Magoli.
Okay, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
All right, awesome. Well, hi, y'all. It's so nice to meet everyone. My name is Magoli Garcia, and I am running for Executive Vice President for Diversity and Equity. A little bit about myself. I'm currently a freshman studying political science. I'm also originally from San Antonio, Texas, and I've been really involved not only within my own community back at home, but also here in Chicago when it comes to raising awareness about a lot of issues that are very important to me. I've also been personally appointed by President Esteban to the Hispanic Serving Task Force to help the university complete Title IV application and to help Latinx students find the support and resources at DePaul to thrive. And the reason why I'm running for this position is because the past year, I've learned the importance of actions over promises. I know we all remember last spring unveiled a growing plague that caused a national awakening. And it wasn't just an actual plague, but a plague of overt systemic racism. And both of these are affecting minority groups in many ways. More specifically, affecting students here at DePaul. And as EVP for Diversity and Equity, I started to not only listen to these communities, but create action to solve the problems that we have here on campus. Because to me, being EVP for diversity and equity means not just bringing awareness to these prevalent issues, but creating action out of those conversations. Accessibility is the only way to do that. And our campus has the potential to be better, and it's up to us to make that potential turn into reality. I believe that this year we need to show up for those who in the past didn't see the change that they desperately deserved. So here are a few initiatives that I plan on implementing once I'm in office. Firstly, I'd like to schedule bi-weekly diversity and equity council meetings with each community and minority organization with their leaders to discuss the issues and present solutions to DePaul's administration. It's a priority to me that there's a constant and accurate communication kept during these council meetings, because that is something that I feel like a lot of students are feeling frustrated about nowadays. Secondly, I'd like to create a committee for BIPOC, LGBT, and undocumented students to learn how to become more involved and actively participate in state and local government by expanding our relationship with our faculty to work on these common initiatives.
Sorry,
And last,
wrap the last sentence up. Thank you.
I'm sorry?
The time is up. Just, yeah, sorry.
Okay, thank you, Robbie.
Thanks. Sorry, Robbie. The timing is, this is why you do the timing, not me. Thank you. I appreciate it. And thanks, Magoli. We'll do some question and answer now. It looks like David has his hand up if you want to go ahead and ask.
Hi, Magoli. I don't think we've had the opportunity to meet yet. I've been trying to get disability within diversity and equity issues, and I was curious. There's a lot of shared interests with diversity work on the employee side, and I was wondering if you had any ideas about working together to align those interests or working towards shared interests with like diversity activism on the employee side.
Yes, of course. I think there's a really heavy emphasis on making sure that accessibility is very important. When it comes to students with disabilities, I think we need to work closely with our faculty and administration to make sure that the resources are provided to our students with disabilities. And in order to do so, I would love to, I would focus on working with the senator for students with disabilities in order to make those changes needed. Did I answer your question?
I meant like, for example, there are the employee resource groups that advocate or that are like for there's like the DePublic for Black employees, and there's like an LGBT employee group, and similar. So that the Diversity Act, self-advocacy on employees has a lot of overlap in goals within the community as diversity activism on the part of students. And I was wondering, I feel like there's a huge opportunity for synergy there. I was just wondering if you had any ideas about working with them where possible. I mean, we obviously don't have 100% shared interest with employees, but sometimes we do.
Yes, of course. I do think that's important, and as Vice President for Diversity and Equity, that would be one of my priorities. So yeah.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, Cindy, I see your hand up.
Hi. Again, we haven't had the pleasure to meet. I'm Cindy. I was just going to ask, since mentoring is such a really big part of EVP, how do you plan to fulfill that at the most that you can as someone who is coming in new to SGA?
Of course. As someone that's coming in new to SGA, all of this is very exciting, and I'm so excited to learn all the processes within SGA, but I do pride myself on being a really quick learner. And when it comes to mentorship, I think I have already met some incredible people that work within SGA, and I would be just so excited to meet more of the incredible people that work within this organization. Thank you so much, and it was great meeting you.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions?
If there are any questions that need to be directed to me, I'll leave my contact information in the chat box.
Great, thank you. Yeah, Robbie, if she has time left, then you can go ahead and ask a question.
Yeah, Magoli has a minute, 55 seconds left. So, hi, Magoli, nice to see you. I know that we are both appointed by President Esteban to serve on the HSI task force. What are some like possible initiatives or ways of providing resources to underrepresented communities at DePaul, especially the Black community, and how can we further use that HSI status in the future to continue serving marginalized groups?
Of course, thank you for your question. I think it's really important to have open communication and as accurate as possible, and also making sure that our underrepresented communities feel as if their voices do matter on campus. I feel like recently we've seen a lot of frustrated students not having those promises fulfilled by administration. And I think that frustration is valid. And in order to, like you said, we're both on the task force together. I think the best way to create more resources for those underrepresented communities specifically can focus in on the financial support. And also making sure that we are offering the same, if not more, resources to our underrepresented communities. For instance, DePaul University only has less than 17% Latino or Latinx population among students. And I think it's really important that we diversify our community in order to bring more voices to light. Was I able to answer your question? Yes, okay, great.
Okay,
Yes, thank you.
great. Thank you. Alec, if you'd still like to ask your question, you can go ahead.
Robbie, how much time do I have left? How much
40
time is
seconds.
40? Okay, cool. Magoli, I know that you have done a lot of work in the activist sphere among a ton of different issues. I was just wondering if you could talk about how that is going to really shape your experience in SGA, and what is that past experience, what are you going to use from that as your potential role in SGA?
Of course, thank you for your question. So my past experience, for those who do not know, I am very active in the political world. I've currently worked on not only a local level with passing school district policies that I've written myself. I've also worked within state level organizations to help focus on voter rights and also focused on passing legislation that helps our communities within not only Chicago, but also in Texas. And what I've learned from those experiences is not only to handle a large workload, but also make sure that the right voices are being brought to light. And being a leader in such a large community is difficult, but under the right circumstances, I truly believe that I will be able to accomplish this.
Thank you so much. Okay, so we have finished up our cabinet. Oh, thanks, Magoli. We appreciate you. Thanks for being here and good luck. So we have finished our cabinet positions and we're going to be moving on to our senatorial positions. Yep, Robbie, is there something wrong?
I think we have another candidate.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We do have another candidate for diversity and equity. Excuse me, I'm the worst. Okay, the candidate who is running for diversity and equity, you can raise your hand.
Hi, Jane. Hi, Bestie.
Hey, Bestie, go ahead.
So, hi, guys. I'm Adora. I go by she pronouns. I'm a current freshman. I'm in the BAJD program, majoring in economics this year. So a little bit about myself. I'm also a student representative on the Illinois Board of Higher Education, and I'm your current senator for community and government relations. So with these two positions, in terms of Illinois Board, we've done a lot of diversity tactics this year, creating a white paper, especially for Indigenous communities, for a lot of colleges and universities all across Illinois, especially allocating funds to provide resources for Native American students and Black students too in Chicago. And then in terms of my senator position, me and the amazing Gato, we came up with this event. It was called a Dialogue on Student Advocacy and Leadership. And with this information, I got real-time student feedback and a lot of requests for a lot of diversity techniques that I could use this year. So my initiatives surround all of that. Number one, workshops and coalition building to amplify LGBTQ+, BIPOC, disabled students, and other marginalized communities' voices. Diversity and student advocacy needs to be prioritized. So multilateral training, especially with protests, getting in student speakers, especially as we're continuing to be in person next year, this coming fall. And another initiative I had, which I was working on too this past term, was kosher and halal meal plans. Now, this initiative, I don't understand why it's honestly hasn't been done. It needs to be prioritized more, especially for our Muslim and Jewish community. Speaking with UMA, United Muslims Moving Ahead, this means a lot to them, and I really want to get it done for their community and for the rest of the communities too at DePaul. In terms of sexual awareness initiatives, advising direct legal assistance to sexual assault victims, and providing sexual wellness seminars. I think we need to really incorporate that on campus because that affects a lot of people's mental health as well. And we need to acknowledge all those things.
Yeah, sorry, time is up. Thank you, Adora.
Thank you, Adora. Are there any questions for Adora? And before I get into that, sorry, I did want to reiterate something. So we do have the chat, and I understand that the conversations happening in the chat are very important, but they are distracting, and we are meeting at each candidate here. So let's try to be respectful. That was the one thing that I asked. So I just asked that everyone is respectful of one another. I understand that these conversations are very important, but it is distracting, and I think that each candidate deserves to be heard out. So try to not speak in the chat if you can, and just try to listen to each of the candidates that are speaking and give everyone the amount of time that they are allotted. And okay, so I saw David's hand first.
Okay, hi Adora. I was just gonna ask basically the same question I asked Magoli about how you would build coalitions, diversity and equity with other parts of the community. Other than students, and if that is something you would consider important, because you mentioned government and I mentioned employees.
Yeah, so great question, David. So in terms of incorporating other communities, you said in employment, correct?
And also like the activist groups on campus, and you mentioned government work, and diversity and equity is not just a student thing. So it was just, there are shared diversity interests in the broader community other than just within the student silo. So that students can benefit from building connections because of shared interests. I was wondering if you could go on. Yeah, sorry, I'm going on and on.
Yeah, no, you're fine. So in terms of building a platform for those other communities, I think it's very important to speak with those communities because I cannot speak for certain communities. I think we also need to consider reaching out to faculty too. And in terms of employment, actually, like Elevate is a program too for Asian Americans on campus. And I think we need to have that same program for other communities, for other marginalized communities. I think we need to incorporate that because it matters on the diversity and equity range that we have when we allow people on our campus and we open up, we welcome people to our campus too. So hopefully that answered your question.
I want to give other people opportunity to ask questions.
Thanks, David. I saw Cindy's hand next.
Hi, Adora. I just wanted to ask about, I know you were involved in an activist forum. So I was wondering if you can speak a little bit about how you've served the community outside of SGA.
So outside of SGA, I'm also a part of Kalahi. That means very dear to me because I was born in the Philippines. So being allowed to, try and find some roots in America, that means a lot to me too. And working with them to have other fellow Asian Americans connect to their certain cultures and their traditions means a lot to me too. And then obviously Illinois Board, working with other students from different universities has really opened my eyes to the certain geographical limitations that each university has to go through in terms of diversity, because working in the city is vastly different from a college such as NIU. It's vastly different too. And I think that those factors are very important to when making decisions as EVP of Diversity and Equity.
Great, thank you. And then I saw Watfa's hand as well.
Hi, Adora. I've known Adora for like the longest time ever, and I just want to say like she's always been a really good ally to my community. And that was something, the halal meal options was something I was working on my freshman year. And then when things shifted to online, we had to put a halt on that project through Ummah. But I was just wondering how you plan on working with Ummah now that we're returning back in the fall to see this through.
Yeah, so I've been talking and speaking, going back and forth with Rick Moretti, if I'm saying that right, forgive me. He is the head of the dining committee, and he told me we're planning to, as soon as we're back in person, we reopen the dining committee and we put more pressure on that. And I've also discussed more tactics too, especially including the dining workers as well, with their rights as well, their respective position throughout all of this. It definitely matters, but definitely just being in person, we can definitely put a lot more pressure on this and gain momentum to actually seeing this through.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Was that the end of time, Robbie? Cool. Okay, well, thank you, Adora, and good luck. So now I know that we're done with our cabinet positions. I know that for a fact. So we are going to be moving on to our senatorial positions, and we're going to start with, so we do have someone who is running as a write-in candidate for the College of Communication. Hema, if you're ready.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Hema, and I am going into my 5th year at DePaul now in the College of Communication. And so, yeah, I'm running as a write-in candidate to be reelected as senator for the college. And so I ran for SGA originally last year because as a first-gen student, as a past full-time student and primary caregiver to my mom, and as a commuter, I had an unconventional first few years of college. And so this is really just my way of maximizing my time at DePaul and connecting with the students in the community. And so something that I was able to work on this year in response to that and in collaboration with Dean Lexa Murphy and the rest of the student engagement committee of the college was creating and distributing a student engagement survey that would gauge how the college's students are feeling. Are they in touch with professors? Are we in touch with one another? How are we handling virtual learning? And so we got over 100 responses, which included really helpful feedback. So I'm actually going to be meeting with her again next Thursday to talk about how we can use that data for next year. And so another reason I ran was with majoring in common media, I wanted to launch a research initiative that looks into how our academic and extracurricular spaces at DePaul are not only encouraging a diversity of opinion in the classroom, but actually bridging gaps in understanding between those opinions. And so this would be done, like once we actually launch a survey for this and kind of gauge where everybody's at, this would be done with, we would take that data and it would be a way to promote a free platform called OpenMind. And OpenMind platform guides groups through educational modules that talk about what constructive dialogue looks like, even with difficult conversations, and how we can achieve that together. And finally, some of the other initiatives that I'm thinking about are looking into the looking into what student registration looks like and how we can encourage students to think about classes for next. I can touch on that later. Thank you.
Thank you. That's time. Are there any questions for Hema? Yeah, I saw Cindy's hand first.
Hey, Hema, I just wanted to kind of give you the opportunity to finish up. So can you tell us about your initiatives for students picking classes?
Yeah, thank you. So well, I was actually talking to this about this with Keith, and I started reflecting on how a lot of the classes that I didn't do well in my first few years I started seeing a similar pattern in like how big they were, the kind of professor that I had, how engaged students were in conversation, like was it a lecture kind of class or was it more seminar based? And I just kind of wished that an academic advisor would have told me, you should consider class size, you should consider looking at teaching evaluations. And I don't think that we actually can look at teaching evaluations from the feedback that I've heard from with other students. And so I would like to be able to see what the proportions look like and the types of classes that are offered, like in terms of those kind of characteristics, and also trying to see if we're able to actually collect the data from teaching evaluations and make it kind of create a profile for every professor so that students can decide if that's the right professor for them to take or not.
Thank you, Hema. David, did you have a question?
Thank you, David.
Yeah, so we've talked in the past and we've shared some concerns about SGA being somewhat inaccessible to constituents, and I was wondering if you could share some thoughts on how you might help make SGA more accessible to constituents. Your video is paused. I don't know if if you heard me or not. Or is my video paused?
You're fine, David. It's not you. Hema might be frozen for a second.
Give it a second.
Does look like Hema is frozen. Okay.
If we have a half second, it is my understanding that the teaching evaluation, at least summary information of teaching evaluations is available, but it's really, really poorly integrated and not great to get at. So.
Oh no.
Hema? Okay, we see you now. Okay,
Amazing.
David, you can ask your question again.
Yeah, I'm sorry, David, I actually did hear you, but I didn't realize you guys couldn't see me and hear me. Yeah, so David, I think this might answer your question, because when you say accessibility, what I'm just thinking of is like students even know, that they give this answer to your question, like marketing and comms team going. I don't know if you guys can hear me, but yeah, I can. Yes, I will type my response in. Yes, I will type my response in the chat. Basically, hopefully someone can hear me, but I plan on getting a comms and marketing team going. I know that Ari is already taking on a lot of work for, social media, but I think that a social media comms initiative is really difficult for only one person to take on. And so I talked about this before, like if we were able to do student interviews of, different students in classrooms, if we were able to talk about what other orgs are doing, what we're doing in collaboration with them, and for our social media not to just be informative on like what are we doing, like what events are coming up, but kind of more general and more interconnected with the rest of the student body. I think that would be a way for students to feel kind of more welcome in our space and less disconnected from us. I hope that answers your question. There are other ways, but yeah, that's part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hema. We appreciate you being here, but that was all the time that you had for your Q&A. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. We're gonna move on. Yeah. We're gonna move on to our next college senator position, and that's gonna be for the senator for the College of Business. So I know that we do have one student here, so you can go ahead and raise your hand because I don't know where you are. Okay, yes, Cole Kitchens. All right, you can go ahead and introduce yourself whenever you're ready.
Hi everyone, my name is Cole Kitchens. I'm new to SGA. I'm originally from Savannah, Georgia, and I'm a rising sophomore studying marketing in the business school here. I currently serve as a programming assistant for the DePaul Activities Board for the Fest and Signature Events Committees, and next year I will be a chair of the Signature Events Committee. I also serve as a team member for the DePaul Edge team. DePaul Edge Housing Marketing Team, and I'm looking to expand my involvement within DePaul through running for Senator for Dry House College of Business. My initiatives are really focused. My first one would be to advocate for systemic change by prioritizing DePaul's initiative or SG's initiative of ending their relationship with the Fraternal Order of the Police. My second being facilitating a safe, healthy, and easy transition back to campus for all students, and specifically students within the business school, by providing mental health and academic resources and support. And then my third initiative would be to highlight and advocate for diverse voices within the College of Business, because it is a mostly white male dominated field. I feel it is really important to be actively listening to minority business students, their concerns, needs, and issues, and bringing them to the forefront.
Thank you so much for introducing yourself. We can now move on to a Q&A with Cole. So if there are any questions, okay, David, I see your hand.
If there's anyone else who wants to go before me, I keep raising my hand, but if not, I'll go. So you mentioned the FOP discount, and a lot of people mentioned that discount, and a lot of people on campus have been banging that drum for like a year. So I was just curious. We have not succeeded in extracting any concession whatsoever from the administration yet, and I was curious what you might do differently that might get more results.
Bringing in perspective from the diverse students of the business school, I think would be really important. Getting their ideas on the topic, and then also the reason I put it as one of my initiatives, because I feel like it is super important that we do end that because it just needs to happen. I know that SG has tried several times to end it and has not been successful, but I feel like it should be a priority right now.
Thank you. All right, are there other, oh yeah, Alec, you can go ahead.
Hi, Cole. You mentioned kind of like just the business side of how it's very male and very white dominated. And then you mentioned some of the stuff that you're going to do, which is awesome. Within your specific role as SGA, how are you going to work with other SGA members or other coalitions in order to kind of fulfill that campaign promise?
Right. I plan on really reaching out to minority students specifically across all identities, and really hearing what they have to say, as well as working with other the diversity and equity senators that we have within SG, and then other student orgs as well. I'm very open to working with them and ready to do it. I want to bring those voices to the forefront. I feel like it's super important. It's not really something that's been done a lot in the past, but I think it's time.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions for Cole? Okay. All right, if there are no other questions for Cole, I guess we can move on. Thank you, Cole. We appreciate you. Okay, so the next senator position I have is going to be another one for another college on campus, and that is our College of Education. I know that we do have a a candidate for this position here. You can just raise your hand. Hi, Zoe. All right, whenever you're ready, you can go ahead.
Hi. Sorry, I didn't know if you meant raise my hand or like my metaphorical Zoom hand. But hey, my name is Zoe Kai Dougherty. Another Zoe here. It's nice to see other Zoes. But if you don't know my face, it's because I'm new to SGA, but I'm super excited to be here and learn about what's going on and all this process and just be really involved at DePaul. I am a junior in the College of Education. I'm majoring in secondary ed, English, and I'm also majoring in English literary studies. I think what I have learned these past, especially 2 years, I'm super passionate about community building and about supporting College of Education students to be the best teachers they can possibly be for their future students. I think it's really important that we pour resources into figuring out how we can make that happen. And in my opinion, a lot of that is community building within the College of Education. If I know Kevin is in the College of Education, but there really aren't many inside communities within the college, and it's really unfortunate if someone wants to get involved in that. I've looked, I haven't seen anything. So that's something I really want to foster. And I also want to help create a strong collaboration between students and staff as to what we want that to look like, and really just to facilitate those conversations within the college, and also to maintain the focus that the College of Education puts on diversity and equity, and to really make sure we are just upraising teachers that will find that important to fight for within classrooms and outside of the classrooms. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know.
Cool. All right. Thanks, Zoe. It looks like I see Cindy's hand. You can go ahead.
Hi. I just wanted, first of all, you're doing great. Good job. But secondly, you are talking about like community building, which is, we all know it's very, very vital right now. Do you have any ideas as to how to start that?
Yeah, so I think potentially like a place to begin is, well, first of all, asking students what they want. I hopefully want to put out some sort of survey to College of Education students to see what they would even be interested in. But other than that, like something I'm thinking about is creating specific groups for the different sections of the College of Education, like secondary ed, or elementary ed, just to sort of get those conversations rolling, and we can bounce ideas off of each other as students as well.
Thank you so much. Are there any other questions? Yeah, Jaslyn, go ahead.
I was going to ask, so often senators, like they represent different communities, and in this case, like you would be representing the College of Education, but oftentimes they also work alongside other senators and work on some different topics and conversations. So in your opinion, outside of the College of Education, what is one issue you believe students are greatly impacted by now, and what would be your solution to that problem?
So I think something that at DePaul is a big issue right now is students feeling safe and feeling comfortable in their learning environment. And I think there's a lot to say about a lot of people partnering up to do that. I think it's important to, I guess, create student interest and knowledge that these issues are important and that there are people that don't feel safe at DePaul. And we all need to work together to make sure it is a safe place for all people. So yeah, I guess that's what I would say to that. Sorry, did I answer your question? I feel like maybe I didn't.
Yeah, I was looking, I guess like a little more for like a specific like solid solution. But I definitely agree that it's definitely a concern for a lot of students. But going forward, hopefully next year, should you step into this position, I am excited to know like what work you may do. So.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to follow up. Truthfully, I struggle with knowing exactly what a good solution is. I feel like it's been really hard to figure out solutions for issues of everyone feeling safe on campus. So I definitely think what's important for me is to listen to those individual people and realize as a white woman that I don't know what those experiences are like. So that right now I would say is my priority, and figuring that out together and figuring out how I can help with those interests.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe. Yeah, I see Hema's hand.
Yeah, Jane, a quick question for you beforehand. Am I able to make like a general comment or does it have to be a question technically?
We prefer them to be questions.
Okay. 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 That's fine. Then I will pass on this one. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Zoe? Okay. If not, thank you so much, Zoe. We appreciate you. And we will move on to our next one, which is, so we're done with schools and we're going to be moving on to our year senators. And so that is, that's going to be our senator for second year students, which is Alec. So you can go ahead and go when you're ready.
Thank you, Jane, and thank you, DePaul. Thank you, SGA EOB. I wish that I had some other people that I could share this time with, but thank you guys for allowing us to come into this kind of forum-like style and really talk about some really important issues. But yes, my name is Alec. I am a first-year student. I'm currently the senator for first-year students at DePaul's SGA, and I am running to represent second-year students. So I guess you could call it re-election. I don't know. But I'm really excited to talk with you all today. I'm not running against anyone. And so I wanted to use more of my platform today to talk about a really important ballot initiative that is going to be on our ballots coming up next week, which is the referendum to call on DePaul to end the tuition discount with the FOP. And I think it's vitally important. We've heard from numerous candidates tonight about why this issue is really important. The biggest one is that we just want to stand with Black and Brown students and our Black and Brown organizations on campus and our racial justice organizations on campus who have been calling for this for years now. I had the chance to talk with a couple of DePaul administration spokespeople, and what's very clear to them is they have a preconceived notion in their head of what they want to do, and it's on us to put the pressure on them, and that's exactly what this ballot initiative and this referendum is going to do. And so I really hope that you all talk to your friends when they come to either vote for you or to vote for another candidate to make sure to vote yes to end the tuition discount, because it's so important, and hopefully we can continue and keep this pressure on them for as long as we can. It's what I've been doing during my time here at SGA, and I'm really excited to continue that, but I'm happy to take questions now.
Thank you, Alec. Yeah, it looks like David, you have your hand up.
Hi, Alec. So I wanted to thank you for championing the FOP issue, and I'm really excited to see your energy coming back next year. I was just curious, since we've had not great luck with our getting the administration to do things about to change the thing with the FOP based on what we've done so far. Beyond the ballot referendum, what are some other, I don't know, spitballing ideas of other ways that we might be able to finally twist their arm into changing?
Yeah, if I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't have an answer to that question. If I did, we wouldn't be sitting here voting on a referendum for it. DePaul would listen to us. And so as much as I want to sit here and say, you know, blah, 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 this is gonna work. I have had limited experience with DePaul administration. I'm really excited for another year of experience with working with them and for keeping the pressure on them. But right now, it's really just about centering Black and brown voices and hearing what they have to say and making sure that DePaul also listens to them. That's not something that's going to happen overnight. Hopefully this referendum is just another, you know, drop in the bucket of pressure and of activities that we can do to make DePaul listen to us. I tried to go at them as hard as you were there for that meeting, as hard as I could. And what's clear to them is they just need pressure after pressure after pressure. So as much as I want to be like, yay, we've, you know, let's say the referendum passes, that it happens overnight, but I know it won't. And so I'm excited to work with you. I'm excited to work with a lot of other people on this call to really keep the pressure on DePaul administration for the next coming year.
Thank you. Jaslyn, you have your hand up?
Yeah, so at our last GB meeting, when we were talking about the referendum and like making some amendments to it, I think, well, for me personally, I feel like it was kind of a tense moment, and a lot of us like were really frustrated when talking about that. And oftentimes with that frustration, I feel like there can be a lot of misunderstanding, like miscommunications that happen in during our GB meetings. But it's also super important that like when we do have guests and senators, other members of SGA, like speaking and contributing ideas, it's important that like we make sure we respect those ideas and like follow the community guidelines. So I was going to ask, like, in your opinion, what are some ways you would make sure that those community guidelines are, you know, strictly adhered to, and that all students like who are present in our GB meetings feel safe contributing their ideas?
Yeah, I mean, that's really important. I think the biggest thing is, I think, just understanding your position, right? I'm one person in a body of 20 to 30 people at any given time, which means I'm one voice out of 30. And knowing that, you know, it's not, we're talking about issues that you're not always affected by, that you're not always really directly dealing with, and making sure that those students also have a voice, and that you're kind of doing the like, share the mic, but also take the mic when you can. And I think just making sure that we are continuing to do that, but making sure that we also just be respectful and know that things get heated, but that we're, at the end of the day, we're all a family, and we all need to come together. We can have disagreements over policy like we did last night, but you know, it's never about personal issues or our lives, because we all respect that.
Yeah, most definitely. Thank you for your response too, by the way.
Jane, how much time do I have left?
Robbie can correct me, but I see 52 seconds or 42 seconds.
I have 48. I think that's a good middle ground. Yeah, 48. Yeah.
48. The man is right. Okay, Magoli, you can go ahead. Sorry, I don't need to be sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Thank you. So Alec, hi. I was wondering, after now being almost a full year of being the first year senator, what are some things that you've learned from being in that position that you will apply being the second year senator?
I think I speak for many people that doing this over Zoom is not easy. And a full year of online learning, of online organizing and doing all that stuff, it's really difficult. And you really have to, especially as I've never been to campus, never been in a classroom. It's really, really difficult to talk about really important issues at DePaul while not having any experience on campus. And so just making sure that we continue that, but also keep an open mind with that as well. And I think just doing this, I've gotten a chance to meet with the DePaul administration and talk with them and hear what they have to say. And a lot of that is keeping pressure on them on things that are important to us. I'm really excited to continue to do that. And part of it too is just listening and learning to people, because as first years, we haven't been on campus. And so listening to, I don't want to be like respect your elders, but like, you know, kind of taking the trust of people who have been to campus and who are older, and also just making sure that we listen to people that we don't normally listen to.
Thank you, Alec.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. All right, so Alec's time is up, unfortunately, but you can learn more about him on the website. Okay, thanks, Alec. We appreciate you. Yeah, Jaslyn, did you have something?
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's not like for any specific candidate, but I was gonna ask, like, am I allowed to make like a general question? I guess like towards the end, and then like any candidates who may like want to speak on that. Like, can we do that towards the end, or do I do that now?
Yeah, no, why don't we do that at the end? Why don't we do that at the end? All right. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. So the next person that I have, I'm not sure if this person is here or not. So it's a Senator for Mission and Ministry. I'm gonna give it like a couple seconds. This person isn't here, so I don't know why they would pop in when I say that. So this person is not here. So we're gonna move on to the next one. So the next one that I have is the Senator for LGBTQ+ students, and that is Riley. So whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Riley. I use she, they pronouns. I am a current junior here at DePaul. I'm studying political science with minors in art and Spanish. So some currents that I do at DePaul, I am a Chicago Quarter mentor, I'm a college peer access guide, and I am a campus tour guide. So I have my hands in all different things here at DePaul, and I've been involved with some of the university activist groups such as Spectrum, which I think is super important for this. So I'm super excited to be running. I'm a new face to SGA, but I think that this position, like all of them, are super important, and I'm so glad that it has been created. So I want to jump right into my initiatives that I've been thinking about. So I'm a queer non-binary person, and so a lot of these are very important to me, especially the focus on gender and accessibility with gender. There are the gender neutral bathrooms on campus, and they really upset me because they are not accessible to people with physical disabilities. They are also just not accessible. Like, we have maybe 3 or 4. We need more of those, and that needs to change, and that's one of my top initiatives. Also working on mental health issues. We need people that are informed on queer and also queer and trans people of color. Like, we need mental health care definitely informed on that, to bring in different therapists and also expand mental health care and have different support groups for people that are going through the transitioning process, going through the coming out process, because I went through the coming out process in college and didn't have anyone that understood my experience. I didn't want to talk to, no offense, a straight person. I wanted to talk to somebody that has my experience also with gender identity. That's so needed. We need to continue to make DePaul a queer affirming space. It is not safe for a lot of our trans students. We need to fix that. And I want to make that one of my top initiatives, to fix that as somebody that identifies as not, cis. I think that needs to change. There's also something that I'm not sure if you're familiar with at DePaul, that we are not allowed to talk about contraception on campus, and we're not allowed to talk about abortion access. And I think that that's something, especially in the queer community, that is not really focused on. So that is something that I want to push the administration on, of opening up that access for people and not having it be secretive, because it is. You have to go through the Women's Center or the different resource centers here on campus. It should be something that we should push to the front. And also something I want to identify about my candidacy.
Sorry, I don't want to interrupt you. Your time.
No.
Thank you.
Okay, at the end of time. Okay. Yeah.
Thanks so much. Okay, looks like we have a couple questions. Alec, I saw your hand.
I just wanted to ask you to finish that last point that you were about to make. And I also wanted to ask you, and if you could just talk a little bit about kind of your experience and your role in intersectional like queer activism, and kind of like how you're going to bring an intersectional lens to this brand new position.
Thank you so much. Yeah, great question. I wanted to finish off my point by saying I'm a white person running for a position that represents a very diverse community. So going into that, I have worked in the national queer space for quite some time. I have also started my own nonprofit for queer people to run for office. So that is my top goal. I want things to be open and accessible. So that means working with the variety of different queer organizations here on campus, reaching out to queer leaders. QPOC is a great organization that needs to be, you know, more at the forefront of voices. And I can't actually take credit for this idea. I was talking to Caro and they had this amazing idea of having open town halls with different queer students. And I would love to do that. And one of my initiatives on my Instagram and on my posts is that I want to be open to students and I want to, you know, enhance community and listen to them and talk to them and be as open as possible. And I don't understand the experience of a person of color in my community. So I want to make sure that I listen to that and bring that into everything that I do in SGA.
Thank you so much. I saw David's hand next.
Hi, Riley. So you brought up the intersection of queerness and physical disability with the bathrooms. My sister is trans, and she tried to come to DePaul for grad school, but after like year and a half, she ended up leaving because she ran into uncooperative professors with accessibility issues. And I was just wondering if you could speak to other ways that you could see intersection between queerness and disability issues.
Yeah, no, I'm so sorry to hear about that. That's really sad and really upsets me. And I'm going to self-identify and say that I am a CSD student. So accessibility is something that's really important to me. And I think just being able to allow, you know, queer students to not necessarily always have to self-identify, because I feel like that's a thing that we have to do. And pushing professors to maybe go to more trainings on how to make things more accessible, because a lot of my professors aren't. And I've run into a couple issues of people not being able to use chosen names or correct pronouns. And so I think just like having those open conversations is a first great step. This is definitely something that I need to think a little bit more about to develop. Even just like with my own disability, like I'm still like learning how to, you know, figure out things that work for me. And I don't obviously speak for the experience of a lot of different, you know, disabled students. So I would really want to listen to them and talk with them and see how we can make the queer community and even just make the DePaul community more open. But yeah, the bathrooms definitely piss me off, and how professors perceive students really upsets me too. So I would try to make that more equitable.
Thank you so much. Cindy, your hand was raised. Did you still want to ask a question?
Oh, I was just gonna give them the opportunity to finish up their initiatives. But anyway, now that I'm here, just wanted to say you're doing amazing.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions for Riley? Okay, if not, thank you so much, Riley. We appreciate you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, and last but not least, we have our candidate for the Senator for Disabled Students, and that is David. So David, whenever you're ready, now's your time to shine.
Hi, everyone. My name's David. I'm a non-traditional adult student. I'm double majoring in communication studies and business administration. I've been doing youth activism for 15 years, but I'm fairly new to working on campus with that. Most of you know, I probably know I've been hanging out with SGA for a while, and it's taken me a while to get the ropes with SGA, but I'm really interested to bring disabled activism into focus with SGA. A couple of my initiatives, I feel like CSD is much too compliance oriented, and I'm interested in having more of like activism support with like OHMs. And I've also been talking with IDE and connected with a new employee disabled group. And I'm also interested in making SGA more accessible to outsiders, because it took me a while to get the ropes. And particularly as an autistic person, balancing group norms with also being a white person who passes as a cis male, well, not identifying as cis, balancing that, I feel like the onboarding could for student activism could be made a lot more accessible, and onboarding to CSD could be made a lot more accessible. And I'm always nervous about time. What am I at time?
24 seconds.
Oh yeah, and I'm doing an ad hoc committee on student engagement. So yeah, that I hope to continue and turn into a thing to do quantitative research on to better engage students.
Thank you so much, David. Are there any questions for David? If not, I have a question. Okay, Hema, you can go. Hema, you can go.
Yeah, thanks, Shane. David, I just wanted to ask if you could leave us with a question to think about, because I don't think that I understood then your accessibility question to me about SGA. And so just so that we can start thinking about it, how could you maybe reframe the question that you asked me? Or is there a specific question that you want to leave us with? I hope that that makes sense.
Well, with SGA, like the whole Robert's Rules thing is not really accessible. I would be really interested in seeing Robert's Rules trainings on campus, and I'm also interested in creating more of a plain English explanation of what SGA is on campus and what it does. That isn't just like, attend our meetings and figure it out, or read the Constitution and figure it out. And I feel like a lot of people don't really understand student government. This is in higher education in general, a lot of students in general, it's not unique to DePaul. So I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions for David? Okay, well, I'll ask my question. So David, during the pandemic, CSD has denied me like most of my accommodations because we're remote. And they basically told me, no, you can figure it out. Just talk to your professors. They've been everything but supportive. So what are your plans to support and provide more resources for students, CSD students in particular, during the pandemic and then once we're back on campus?
The core thing of your frustration with dealing with CSD, I don't know specifically about the remote in person, but I'd really like to see a zero barrier drop-in support space, both virtually and in person, related under OMS, because they're much more active and focused. And in order, the CSD won't even talk to you unless you have a doctor's note, and they won't give you advice on how you might, what might better support you. They expect your doctor to come up with that, which is really inaccessible. And so I'd like to have a support space, probably through OMS, that would help people, I don't know, come up with better demands and how to advocate for themselves for those demands for accessibility. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Does anybody else have any questions for David? Okay. Thank you, David. We appreciate you. And then, so Jaslyn asked if we can do like a question and answer for all the candidates that are here. And I think that's a great idea. So this is kind of the time where anyone can ask anything of any of the candidates. Yeah, so this is kind of like the open floor. So try to make your questions general and not at one specific candidate, if that makes sense. So Jaslyn, did you want to ask your question first?
Yeah, so I actually thought about this when Riley was talking, because I think intersectionality is super important, and I think DePaul lacks that in a lot of its communities right now, especially amongst staff and faculty. And so I was just wondering, for like all of the candidates, how would you prioritize like promoting that intersectionality and making sure that there are not only diverse diverse groups on campus, but also that they are part of an inclusive community.
Yeah, Cindy, you can go ahead.
I can go first. Sorry, I didn't know if we were supposed to raise our hands or if we just talk. But I think one of the biggest things about intersectionality is like even within SGA, like we can all create initiatives like focused together across different like I guess divisions of SGA. But also I think one of the bigger things is like mentioned spectrum. There's Black Student Union. All of these, the PEYAC, for example, all of these different organizations that I feel like it would be very representative to speak to them and be like, hey, what is it that you are lacking right now? What is it that you need so that we can help you? And I think reaching out and creating these bridges between these different student organizations as a whole will make SGA as its own organization much more beneficial for the students since we have more of a communication overall.
Thank you, Cindy. I saw David's hand next.
This was sort of kind of like I was going to ask a similar question related to intersectionality, although from a different side of the intersection. But I know that there are some people at OHM, some student workers at OHMs who have brought in like speakers within their centers who are coming from an intersectional disabled perspective. And I know from like a disabled perspective, it's like the disabled community broadly in DePaul hasn't been communication about those intersections, like, or, you know, knowing about speakers. Like CSD did not alert students that OHMS was bringing in disabled speakers. And so that's something that I'm really interested in doing. Unfortunately, I have not connected as much with OHMS as I've connected with IDE and CSD, but so many different angles. Anyway, I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, thanks, David. And Riley?
Yeah, I think I would just echo everything that everyone said too, of like, especially like, you're not going to understand someone else's experience unless you actually listen to them and listen to somebody that lives that experience. So whether it be like we bring in to like the SGA meetings or just have like trainings that actually work with people of that background. So specifically having like, I would love to bring in a lot of the different like queer people of color and trans people in the DePaul community to like talk to us about what they need. And I think just like SGA being really open and accessible, and I'm not sure if you guys have town halls, but that would be a really, I mean, something similar to this, but I think that would be really great for just increasing just awareness in the community.
Thank you so much. I saw Zoe's hand.
Yeah, this is something I've been thinking about recently amidst the College of Education, because I think something I've missed in preparing myself to be a future teacher is talking about intersectionality in classes and how that will affect our future students that we teach and how those people are who is really going to be running the world. And it's really important to consider that in your students and to encourage them. So specifically for the College of Education, I would try to push for teaching topics of intersectionality to future teachers.
Thanks so much. And I forgot to say, because we came up with this kind of on the spot about timing. So for each question, each candidate that does decide to answer will have 1 minute to answer the question. So sorry for that confusion, kind of just rolling the ball right now. Jaslyn, did you have an answer or another question?
Well, it kind of.
I don't care, either one. Go for it.
I was just gonna say, like, I know, like someone, I can't remember who, I'm so sorry. Someone also mentioned like town halls, and that was something like I really, well, hopefully, should I get to be in the position Okay, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. So for context, for those of you who don't know me, I'm currently the community engagement coordinator for SGA. And implementing like town halls is something that I was really interested in because I feel like, again, one thing we mentioned was that SGA can be really inaccessible to students sometimes. And also I understand that like GB, like a 3-hour meeting is a big time commitment sometimes for students. So I do think like having town halls and like promoting that intersectionality will be, oh yes, Riley. Riley, you mentioned like holding town halls. And I think that's something that's like super effective. Well, that would be super effective. But also, yeah, thank you for your answers. That's all.
Thank you, Jaslyn. David, did you have a question or was it another answer?
It's an answer, although at this point we're kind of mixing them. Regarding town halls, I've been reading about challenges with SGAs at schools elsewhere in the United States and internationally, and it's my understanding that like people like SGAs hold town halls and then people don't show up, and so the challenge is, you know, offering a space but also getting people to know about it and show up. And I am hoping that this the engagement research that we're piloting, that we can maybe get some information about how the student body would better be able to be reached on that way. I don't know if that answers your question.
Cool. Okay, we'll do one more question and then we'll be done for the night if that sounds okay. All right, did anybody else have a question that they wanted answered? Yeah, Hema.
Yeah. So for anyone who feels, you know, like compelled to answer this, but I would like to hear what communication skills you guys have to be able to handle. Can you guys hear me? It says my internet is unstable. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hema, now we can't hear you.
Thank
Hema,
you.
do you want to? Oh, we can hear you now. Sorry.
Conversation. How about now?
Do you want to put it in the chat?
Okay. It seems like I'm lagging, so I don't know if you can hear me. Yeah. Yeah.
I think that you're working now, but why don't you try both?
Okay, let's see. Yes, the joys of Zoom. I thought that was the question coming in. Okay, sorry. Okay, Hema asked, what specific communication skills do you bring into conversations with others who you do not agree with or who do not agree with you? Yeah, David, you can go ahead.
So this is something that's actually come up in my practice, and I think I was thinking about with the FOP scholarship, is I am really interested to find out like what is the internal thought process of why they're continuing something that's clearly unpopular. Like it seems like maybe they're afraid of retaliation or something, but the idea of trying to understand how the other side perceives themselves as going is an interesting topic. I read about it in the book Getting to Yes, which is like a classic negotiation strategy book. And so I think that that's might be a useful thing to do. If that answers your question. It's one thing that came to mind.
That does. Thank you, David.
Okay, cool. And then I see like a million hands right now. So I think I saw Cindy's hand second.
I think what's really important is to have the ability to kind of read the room, because there are some points where, especially if a topic is very sensitive, where if there's too much like emotion involved, sometimes it's better to like take a break and then revisit it later, instead of, you know, being stuck in the same cycle. So I think having the ability to understand kind of where both of you or where the overall conversation is at actually helps with the communication of whatever you are trying to communicate.
Well, thank you, Cindy. And then Kevin, you can go next.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, actually. I really like that. I think, especially in the role that I hope to serve in as vice president, you know, I'm representing, in theory, the whole university, and there are going to be students that will be disagreeing with us. And so I think, one, trying to understand what exactly they're disagreeing about and trying to see it from like their perspective. That's a big thing, especially within like my major as like a history major, that we try and like learn is trying to understand perspectives within, you know, history of man. But understanding that person that's disagreeing with you and then trying to compromise with them best you can, I think is a key issue that we kind of haven't been doing recently. And I think a big part of it because SJ has just not been reaching out. So reaching out, trying to understand where they're coming from, and yeah, that's what I would say.
Thank you, Kevin. So we'll do Mason, Alec, Magoli. Mason, you can go whenever you're ready.
I believe Alec raised his hand before me. If you want
Okay.
So Gemma, I really appreciate you asking this question. I think it's really important that we talk about this and we share these strategies with each other, because obviously this is in an elected role like this, you're always going to have large groups of people that disagree with you, you know, no matter what side you're on, no matter how you stand on issues. So it's really important that we have these conversations. And so I think with my experience, primarily everybody that I've worked with over my past year in SGA has been older 50s, 60s cis white men. And so we definitely have a lot of conflicting viewpoints on a lot of conflicting issues, but the way that I've been able to build a very professional and productive repertoire with them is by calmly listening to them, listening to their perspectives. And then if I give them that respect, then in turn, I get that respect back. And I know it's not always easy to listen to other people give opinions that you don't like or that you think are wrong. But it's really imperative for us to listen in order for them to listen to us, because that is the only way that anything is going to get through, especially when it comes to administration and faculty. And so I've found that just being patient and having these thoughtful conversations with them has been my best strategy in regards to settling differences. So I really hope that answered your question.
Thanks, Mason.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, Mason. It's Hema. It's like with an H, not a G.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
You're okay.
All right. Alec, you can go ahead.
I really like this question as well. I think the biggest thing, I agree with everyone here, but I also think that the biggest thing is to kind of have your passion, have that fire in your belly, and to hold your ground, especially when you're talking with people you don't disagree with. It's so easy to get pushed around. It's so easy to falter, and to hold your ground and to know you're getting into this conversation, you're getting into an argument or a policy discussion with someone because you are passionate with it. No one gets into conversations just by accident on really sensitive or really important issues. And so you got to know where you come from, and you have to know what your position is, and you have to stick by it. Obviously keep an open mind, but really make sure that when you're talking with, let's say, DePaul administration, you're talking with a guest speaker or someone else that comes in, you really gotta hold yourself and hold your ground, because if you don't, you're letting them talk to you rather than having it be a conversation, and rather than you guys really collaborating and really being strong.
Thank you, Alec. Okay, and Magoli, you can go whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you. So I think coming from my background, I, come from the South. I lived in a very conservative neighborhood for my whole life. And so kind of growing up in an environment where there were a lot of very different opinions from mine, especially beliefs that I did not agree with completely. And so having to grow up with the majority being that way, I learned a lot of tactics on how to handle those situations. And one of the best things that I found very helpful was to come into the situation ready to de-escalate it first. Because people with different opinions, whether they intend to or not, will have a defensive reaction and expect a defensive reaction. And so I think the best way to handle those kinds of situations is to make sure that not only are you coming in it with respect for the other individual, regardless if they do, even if they, if you don't agree with them, I think it's important to keep that respect in mind because again, we all are human beings and it's very important to keep that in mind. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, Cole, I see your hand.
Yeah, just like Magoli, I grew up in a very conservative city where tons of people did not agree with me. And I actually I was an ambassador for the Georgia Secretary of State, who I did not agree with a lot of the time with a lot of things. But it really, what it comes down to is like having respect for them, but also figuring out why they think that way, and then putting your argument forward and knowing your stuff. I feel like that's ultimately what it comes down to.
Thank you so much. Any other candidates want to answer that question? Okay. Well, I guess that brings us to the end. I think this was a really productive conversation and time together. Just makes me happy to be an SGA and sad that it's going to be ending soon. So thank you all so much for being here. It really means a lot to me. And I wish everyone the best of luck next week. So elections are starting on Monday at 9 a.m. and you'll receive an email at 9 a.m. That they are out, and you'll get a link. And so you'll be able to vote for everyone that you are allowed to. So like I mentioned in the info sessions, like if you're not in one college, then you can't vote for whoever in that certain college. So if you're running for the business school, people who are in the business school can't vote for you. So if your ballot looks different from someone else's, that's why. So if you have any questions during the election process, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm really excited for all of you and I wish all of you the best of luck. Thanks everyone for coming. Reach out if you have any questions and good luck. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Have a nice weekend.
Bye.